Hello everyone, this is David from Automotive Press. Today I'm going to do a different kind of a review. It's going to be called a live review. It's not live streaming, but what I'm going to do is basically non-stop review of this Frontier. Whether I make mistakes or not, it's not going to be edited. You're going to hear everything I have to say about the truck in one single sweep. And the reason why I'm doing this is this kind of mimics what I used to do as an automotive engineer when we used to do what we call Gemba Walk. Gemba in Japanese means where the action is. So we used to take a group of engineers and gather around the car and we talk about everything, the fit and finish, the quality, the manufacturing, the production, as well as the performance and the feel of the car or truck. And basically we spend a couple of hours walking around the car and we share ideas and talk about what we like or don't like about the vehicle. So that's what I'm going to replicate here in this live review, where you will just follow me as I talk about the truck in this case, and you'll hear everything I have in terms of my mind. So it's not going to be beautifully edited, it's not going to be scripted, nothing like that. You're going to hear everything I have to say. So just follow me and let's walk around this Frontier in this live review. It's a 2022 Frontier in what we call the King Cab version, which is a shortened cabin in the back. And so it's not the most common version because most people want the crew cab with the full-size 4 doors. But there are reasons why you might want to buy this version, because some people don't really need the back seat. They want a longer cargo bed, and also it's a little bit cheaper. So there's lots of reasons to buy this kind of a shorter version. And it's sort of like a 2+2 truck, if you will. And in many ways, it's kind of a cool truck to own. So I've been driving this for several days now. It's actually quite a fun truck to own and drive. I have owned Toyota Tacoma for a number of years, as you know. I've owned a 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 Tacoma. So very familiar with it. And in many ways, the Frontier is actually a little bit sportier. And the steering feel is actually quite heavy and so more truck-like. And it's a little bit more refined in some way than Tacoma because it's also more up-to-date. But there are also other things that's a little bit frustrating. So first of all, styling is a very personal, subjective matter. So some people might like it better than Tacoma, others don't. I personally think it has a little bit more modern and aggressive look. I like the styling. I think it looks better than Tacoma, although a lot of people like the traditional look of the Tacoma design. Really nice front here. I like the kind of embossed Frontier logo here. Nissan lately uses the orange theme for anything sportier. So this is a Pro 4X. It's the top of the line, so they've got lots of orange color everywhere. Nice LED headlights. Fake vent here that looks a little bit tacky. I wish when they make this fake vent that they would at least make the vent a little bit deeper so that it doesn't look so fake. The body fit and finish and the paint job, as you know, I like to always make that comparison. It's not bad in terms of paint job. So let me talk about the paint job first. So the paint job is actually quite good. If I kneel down and look from back to the front, very consistent paint. Not much orange peel, a little bit more than I like to see. And but you know, the actual paint job itself looks good. It's clear, it's consistent. I don't see any paint defects. And even the body gaps are actually not bad in terms of between the door and the front fender and also on the other side. But here between the hood and the front fender, you know, they purposely designed this so that you cannot actually measure the gap. It's a different kind of design, but it looks a little bit misaligned. So I'm not too happy about that, but I suppose most people won't recognize it or won't notice it. But the biggest issue I have is this front door. It looks fine when you close it, but something's not quite right with the actual molding inside this weather strip and also the adjustment of the linkage, because when you close it under normal circumstances, it doesn't close. See that? Still doesn't close. There. There's no way you're going to push that hard to close the door, but I'm sure it's just a minor adjustment they have to make in the door to make this work. So I don't think it's a big deal in terms of fixing that issue. I'm just a little bit surprised that it came out this way from the manufacturer and somehow it passed the quality control. So perhaps it was something that happened during the transportation, something, I don't know, maybe the adjustment came out of adjustment, maybe, perhaps. So I'm sure they'll fix that. Otherwise, the fit and finish over here on the exterior, once again, in terms of the emblems, the decals, and all the other various components are totally fine. I really like the design of the rear tail lamp. The Tacoma looks really outdated from that perspective. This is cool looking, kind of three-dimensional look to the tail lamp. You got the Pro 4X emblem here with a big Frontier embossed in the back. A little stepping thing here to step into the over the bed, but this is way too high to step over this, so it's not easy to do that. But what I really like about the Frontier compared to Tacoma is the actual tailgate. Not only is it damped, it's also very easy and light to close. It's got a bit of a hinge design that allows you to just literally lightly push it and closes. This is aluminum for sure because it's really light. Whereas Tacoma is very heavy and it just opens with a big bang, and it also a lot of effort to close. So the tail lamp, I should say the tailgate, I should say, way better than Tacoma. Much lighter. It's also a little bit deeper than Tacoma. This whole thing, the bed is a little bit deeper. And of course this one has a bit of a longer bed because of the King Cab design. So very practical, very usable. Again, if you don't need a back seat, this makes a lot of sense to give you more cargo space. And you'd still get a small jump seat in the back. Clearly not for adults. Maybe even for kids, it'll be pretty tight. I'll show you that in a second. But it just gives you more practicality and at a lower price. So lots of reasons to buy. For me though, I still prefer the crew cab with the full-size 4-door. It just makes more sense for about the same amount of money. It's obviously more expensive that way. Back to the quality here, emblems are all good. We have a Hankook tires, which is a Dynapro. Dynapro is a really good tire, actually, very well liked in the off-road community. I would prefer other brands than Hankook, but you know, lots of people like this particular model, so there's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise, nothing else that I noticed in terms of the quality of the manufacturing. Everything else looks good. There's no problem with the door closing on this side. Of course, this is King Cab, so this is a kind of what I call the half door, and again, very tight space in the back, but it's kind of like a 2+2 pickup truck. So that's the exterior. Do you guys like the exterior? Do you like the front design? What do you think of this configuration? Let's get into the car and we can talk about the way it drives and also the interior. Okay, so I'm inside the Frontier now. Once again, this is kind of live streaming style video, so if I make a mistake, I'm gonna keep on talking, but I want to show you as if I'm showing this car to a friend. So I'm inside the Frontier. I'll talk about the fact that this is kind of 2+2 a little bit later on and show you the back of this King Cab. Once again, because it's not really that usable as a passenger compartment. But the basic fit and finish and the design is actually excellent. The Tacoma is looking outdated now, and even though it's functional and practical, and I love everything to do with Tacoma, there's no question that the Frontier looks more up to date and it's better designed, engineered. So for example, we do get kind of actual screen here, still actual gauges. But in the middle, we get instrumentation here in the digital format. It's a little bit bigger and more functional and communicates a lot more information than, let's say, in the Tacoma. So that's obviously more up to date. And then the digital infotainment system is also better designed. It's a new version of the Nissan system. They do a better job than, I think, Toyota. Toyota does have the newest version in the form of Toyota Connect models that's now in the new Lexus NX and the new Tundra. So that one is the latest one, but all the other Toyota models have the older version of the OS system. So compared to that, the Nissan one is clearly better. It's got buttons still, so I like the fact that even the volume, but also the tuning buttons are still here. Most companies have eliminated that, and you get the buttons of all the controls for audio, but otherwise you can still scroll in. I don't want to do that, and I can go through, and the screens are big, icons are big, kind of like an iPad style. So this is actually excellent. I really like what they've done with this one here. It's very quick, it's fast, audio is, oh sorry. Like I said, you're going to hear everything I have because I'm not going to edit this video and you're going to hear exactly what I have to say. And we still get physical buttons for the temperature. So again, both the driver and the passenger side and all the fan controls. You know, a lot of new cars don't even put the defroster and defogger on the physical buttons anymore, hidden into the infotainment system. I get so frustrated with that. But here you get everything. You get the usual two-wheel drive, four-wheel high, four-wheel low. That's same as all other part-time type truck. You get the, I don't know why the heating for the steering is way down here, but you actually get buttons for a heat seater. Once again, most of us like buttons. The car companies don't seem to realize we don't want everything in digital way. You do get both USB-C and USB-A, so that's really good. You get both clearly in the plain sight. It's not hidden. You still get the cigarette lighter type 12 volt here. The steering has again this orange symbol logo color now. Lots of buttons. It's a bit busy, but easy to figure out, not difficult. And I like the fact that everything is separated. Instead, a lot of car companies nowadays have like one scroll pad that controls multi functions. But here, you know, the functions for moving forward and backward and volume control are all separate buttons. Very easy to figure out. So ergonomically, this is an excellent world-class ergonomics. I wish other manufacturers would have followed this simple recipe for easy navigation, easy control of buttons and other functions. I like the fact that in the door here, this is slanted toward this way, so it's not difficult to get to. Again, ergonomics excellent. You got the signature Nissan design where it sweeps downward. Otherwise, the rest is pretty straightforward. You get lots of stitching again because it's a Pro 4X. You get the orange stitching, and in many ways, you know what? This is kind of what I call a trendy look compared to our red stitching, which is more common. Because you could almost argue that this orange stitching kind of had a bit of a bronze finish to it, which is very trendy these days. So I personally like the orange stitching. I know some people are not crazy about it, but I think it's a beautiful design. There's no sunroof on this one because it's a King Cab version. And the front seats are very comfortable. Absolutely no question about the fact that front seat has lots of space, good support, very comfortable, even lumbar support. And it doesn't I don't ever feel like I'm going to get tired with these seats. They're really good. I like the big tray here. We don't have that in Tacoma. And the fact that the entire cowl is a little bit lower, so I get really good visibility over here. And once again, you can put lots of stuff in here, and it's also rubberized underneath. So very good. Now let me talk about the driving a bit before I talk about the back seat, because the driving is quite different from the Tacoma. The Tacoma is your classic Toyota truck feel. Comfortable, but a little bit bouncy, and the engine is sufficient and maybe even reasonably good, but not all that powerful. This one has, and I'll just grab my cheat sheet here in terms of spec sheet from Nissan. This one has, as you know, the proven 3.8 liter V6 engine, which became new just a couple of years ago in the Frontier, with 310 horsepower and 261 pound-foot of torque with a 9-speed automatic transmission. And so it's got plenty of power. It feels way zippier and peppier than Tacoma. In actual numbers, it's not that much faster than Tacoma, but when you drive it, it does feel quite a bit faster. You step on the gas, it kind of takes off with a good energy. So, it's going to tell me to turn off the power here so that it doesn't run out of battery. So it's giving me a warning to please conserve battery by turning it off. So engine is excellent. I think the engine is definitely better than the one in Tacoma. Tacoma engine is proven, it's reliable, that 3.5 liter V6, but it does feel a little bit gutless, and it's not as smooth in terms of power also, power delivery I should say. So this one has 9-speed transmission and it shifts very smoothly. That's one weak area of Tacoma. It doesn't seem to always shift seamlessly, so something that they'll have to work on it. Now, of course, Toyota will introduce a whole new Tacoma next year in 2023 calendar year as a new 2024. So, of course, then the whole new game begins. Most likely, the new Tacoma will surpass the Frontier because it'll be all new and very up to date. but it might also adopt a 2.4 liter turbocharged engine from Lexus NX. So who knows? People are not too crazy about turbocharged engine in a truck. It probably will drive very well because turbocharger has a good low-end grunt, but we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, the other big difference between this and Tacoma is the way that the steering feels. It's actually very heavy, and typically I really like heavier steering so that you can feel the road a little bit more, so you have a sense of confidence and a sense of connecting with the road. I don't like power steering that's too light and too overboosted. And in the Nissan's case, it's always a bit heavier than competition. So the Frontier is probably 15 to 20% heavier in terms of feel than Tacoma. Same thing happened with the Nissan Titan compared to Tundra. It's quite a bit heavier. So that's their kind of signature style. And so I like it, but for some people it's almost too heavy because when you're parking the truck, it's a bit cumbersome to handle the steering. So I wish they would have calibrated and engineered it so that it gets much lighter in lower speed, like in a parking lot. Other than that, good feel because it still retains traditional design for steering, so you get lots of feedback from the road. You can feel pretty well all the things that you feel when you're making turns quickly. And so there's a level of connectedness to the road, which once again sometimes is missing in other trucks. Tacoma is actually pretty good in terms of that connection feel. So engine's good, transmission very smooth, good steering feel, maybe a bit too heavy for some people. But the ride is a bit of a problem, I think, in this King Cab especially. It's a bit bumpy. That's one thing that I think Tacoma is a little bit better at. It's a little bit smoother over bumpy road. This one gets pretty busy when they're driving over, kind of rough surfaces, and it gets a little bit unsettled back there. Would be much better if you put some weight in the pickup bed, which is what you normally have to do in a truck anyway, and that will settle down the weight and that will settle down the ride, and it should be smoother. But right now I have nothing in the pickup bed, and this format is a little bit uncomfortable when you're going over areas with lots of potholes and bumpy road, which is the case in the spring, right? Lots of potholes these days. So I think the ride can be improved, and so that's one thing that I'm not too crazy about compared to Tacoma. Otherwise, the driving feel is excellent. I'm really enjoying this one. Would I buy the Pro 4X Frontier version over the Tacoma TRD Pro? Well, that's a hard comparison because Tacoma TRD Pro, it's a bit more of a hardcore off-roader compared to Pro 4X. Pretty similar though. And also this one's a King Cab versions, and the one I owned was a full crew cab version. But if I were to consider a crew cab version of the Frontier compared to the crew cab version of Tacoma in the Pro 4X compared to Tacoma TRD Pro, that's a good toss-up. I would have to say the Frontier is a more pleasant car to have because of the engine, smooth shifting, more modernized design, but maybe the manufacturing quality isn't quite as good as the Tacoma, and so I might still lean toward the Tacoma even though it's toward the end of its life cycle. We'll have to wait and see how the new one is when it comes next year. So I'm going to now show you a little bit in the back over there and show you how much space there is, so you can make your own decision as to whether you want to buy the King Cab version or the crew cab, and then I'll come back to say goodbye. So I've got the King Cab here. Let me open and show you the back. So you just open this lever. Again, it's kind of like a 2+ design, 2+2 design I mean. And then if you go to the back, you can see that you can fold this little thing up or down, and small container in the bottom here. But honestly, you can't really sit in here if you're a normal adult size person. I think maybe kids, but that'll be pretty uncomfortable. This is really not meant to carry passengers too much. You can see here, it's a little dark maybe, but you do get the headrest and everything, so that's all okay. But it's just a perfect spot for putting things in. So I can put my backpack in here like this, and then I can put my gym bag on the bottom. So no problem in terms of using as a storage. So once again, think of it as a 2+2 in a coupe style car. So this is like a 2+2 truck basically, and good for carrying goods and stuff in the back, and occasionally maybe for smaller kids or maybe a small younger teenager might be able to fit in there. But otherwise, I would stick with the crew cab. You do pay a little bit more money, but I think for most people that makes sense. So I'm back on outside of the Frontier. Again, would I choose the Tacoma or Frontier? Well, I've done a video already comparing the Frontier to the Tacoma in one of my previous videos, so I'll put the link below, so please take a look at that. But it's good to be able to drive this again, especially in the King Cab version, because we don't usually get that version for a review. But there's a lot to like about the Frontier in terms of the engineering, in terms of the powertrain, even the design. I actually really like it a lot, maybe better than Tacoma. But manufacturing quality, not quite there yet, and maybe the, some of the things are a little bit quirky compared to Tacoma, which is very proven and something that people like a lot. So it's a toss-up. You have to drive both to figure out which one's right for you. I suppose most Toyota loyalists will stay with Toyota, and people who enjoy driving Frontier will stay with the Frontier. For me, both are pretty good. I think this is a more modern, more interesting to drive, but Tacoma, of course, all the way if you want the best quality truck. So that's it for now. I'm signing off. Look forward to talking to you again in this format. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments below if you like this more informal, unedited version of the review called the live review. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.